Welcome, everybody. Brother Goodwin here. We got a very exciting show for you today, a very sobering show. As you remember, last week, during Christmas week, just before Christmas, our show was about what happened in 2023, looking back on 2023. Well, this week, as we told you, we're going to turn that around. We're going to look forward. What's coming in 2024? Doc is in the studio. We've each compiled a list. We'll never get to half of them. But we're gonna try to pick out the most important things that we came up with, things that we think may be coming this year. You're not going to want to miss this. We're not trying to scare you. We're trying to educate you, and we're trying to prepare you or get you to get prepared for some bad things that are coming, because we may still be here before the rapture, and many of these things happen. So stand by. Hey, everybody, welcome. Brother Goodwin here and Dr. Charles Hiltibidal. Thanks for watching the show today. Don't forget, we're on CTN every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Many of you are watching us right now on CTN. We're also on VTN, Victory Television Network, in Little Rock, Memphis area, all of Arkansas, and some surrounding areas of Missouri. Every Saturday afternoon, 2:30, you can watch our same shows right there. We're on pray.com. At least for another week or two, and we'll be talking about that in next week's show, what's coming with that, because that was a temporary thing, and we raised some money. We went on for a couple months, so we're probably going to only be on a couple more weeks. So we'll tell you more about that later. But those of you on pray.com, if you're watching us on your app on pray.com, we want you to know we're only here for another week or two. And you'll need to, if you like our show, you'll need to find us on YouTube. Just go to ProtestantSpotlight.com is the best thing to do. Everything's there. The Facebook page, YouTube, Rumble, all of that's right there on our website. And we'd sure love for you to stay with us. Okay? And all right, so we're on the radio in many locations, but you can find all that on the website. And we sure appreciate those of you who support us. We're a viewer-supported ministry. Doc and I get no salary here. The money that comes in goes to keep us on the air. And we're starting in on a new year, Doc, and a new cycle. And I think we got about another week to go, and we got to pay the big bill. So if you haven't given yet, or you've been waiting for your chance, now's your time. We could sure use your help right now. Just go to the website or call the 800 number or write a check and send it to the address that pops up here on the screen. And contact us if you need help with that, and we'll help you, or somebody will answer the phone and help you. Doc, this is kind of a sobering show, but I've been looking forward to this one.
Yeah.
Because I really think some bad stuff's coming this year, this coming year, 2024.
Well, the closer we get to the end of the church age, the more complicated things are going to get for humanity.
Yeah.
We've read and studied prophecy too long.
We're going to have you read a verse in just a second. We got so much we want to get out today, and I'm going to try to get out of the way and get this said. But the next show we do is going to be about where we're going in our ministry, what Protestant Spotlight has planned for this coming year. We're going to touch on that next week, but we're also going to do a show. I just can't help myself. We got to do it. It's 2030. Is a very interesting year, not only for Christians but for the world. All the three-letter global agencies all have a 2030 agenda.
Yes.
The Health Department, World Health, all of them. They all have 2030 seems to be the year that they all hit their high point and everything falls into place.
Well, we've read it and we know that the tribulation's coming. We know what's going to happen in the middle of tribulation. We know what's going to happen to the end of tribulation. What we don't often think of is that just because prophecy said it happened, we don't often think that God's allowing the stage to be set,
of course,
by the Gentile leaders of the world, and that's exactly what it is.
And also God looked and saw it happen and told us about
God
it in
saw
advance.
And so God's not making any of this happen. He just knew that this is what the world was going to do, and it's a part of the overall plan.
Yeah. There are a few things that God made happen. Galatians talks about in the fullness of time. Christ came into the world, and so that wasn't going to be changed.
There are things, I told the crowd where I preached today, there are things that definitely God did.
Yeah.
And there are things that Gentile leaders of the world did. But God didn't make them do that just because it's in prophecy.
Right, that's right.
And same way with Israel. I mean, Israel is here because God wanted them back, but people don't realize that the Gentile power behind it wants Jerusalem for its headquarters. And that's what the Antichrist is going to do in the middle tribulation. So we're seeing it come.
Within the next week or two, we're going to talk about 2030.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about the possibilities, and I've done some live streams about this, the possibilities that 2030 is actually somewhere around the middle of the tribulation.
It could well be. Yeah.
Now, we don't like that because that means we got a couple more years to go.
While longer. No, but that gives us more time to do evangelistic work.
Yeah.
But we better get to our subject here.
All right, so you got a verse for us in Psalms chapter 2.
Psalms chapter 2, I think it's very prophetic in its nature. It says, why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? We're watching people rage all over the world. The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord. Boy, does that ever sound like today. And against his anointed, saying, let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. That is where we're living today. The heathen are raging in the streets everywhere in the world. The leadership, political leadership in the world, it's almost like they got a crew reading the Bible to find out what God said not to do so they can legislate that's what we're going to do.
Yeah.
And we're seeing the fulfillment of that in our right now. This is where we are.
So we're coming into 2024. You and I come up with some things that we see on the horizon. It doesn't mean they're going to happen in 2024, but these are some things that we see that could happen.
Right.
So why don't you start us off?
Well, in line with that, it's the fact that we're going to see a continued increase in the hatred of Christianity. You're going to see more and more animosity. You're going to see in the Christian world, quote unquote, you're going to see more liberalism in it. You're going to see more drifting toward the fables, away from the truth. All of it is tied together with what we're seeing right now. You're going to watch what's happening in churches that are falling by the wayside or falling, as you often talk about, going into fables. This year, you're going to see a greater movement in that direction.
That's why, Doc, and you wrote a couple chapters in the book. That book was so important in my mind, The Great End Time Distraction. We're talking about Nephilim and fallen angels and UFOs and it's sci-fi and it's much of it is just fairy tale.
That's one of the things you said you've got on your list.
It is on my list. I really believe that a big UFO appearance is coming.
I wouldn't be a bit surprised.
They've been revealing all this stupid tape, and the CIA and FBI are releasing stuff that they've had for years. Just putting a little carrot out there to get us all ready for it.
Wouldn't be a bit surprised.
And it's not. There is no such thing. There is no life on other planets that's flying around our planet. It's all a scam. All the video you see, even the modern stuff today. There was the ship off the West Coast just a few months ago, and everybody was talking about they were saying there was these blips out there, these triangle things, and why didn't they send a jet out there to see them? I don't think they did. But they showed us some video, and it was just like out of the 70s.
And some of the new aircraft that has been developed look like triangular. Dan, but the gullible majority of our world.
Yeah.
Because they, number one, have been sold the bill of good on evolution, believe these things to be real.
You cannot be a Bible believer.
I don't think so.
And believe in these
and I know we probably
Martians and stuff.
I know we probably have some of our people that are reading books by others that are Christian and have movements. I'm here to tell you, I don't see how you cannot believe and understand that this is a part of the end time deception.
It is.
To explain the rapture when we're out of here.
Yeah. And most of the valid UFO sightings that are actually an aircraft of some sort.
Or some kind of military thing.
Exactly, and I talk about that in the book. It's military stuff.
Or
and
some kind of technology that somebody's doing with light.
it goes all the way back to 1947. I give illustrations of it in the book. I prove it. It's always military testing stuff, and they're way ahead of Hollywood. They're way ahead of this thing.
Oh, yes.
And
so you're saying that you think that in 2024 we're going to see
I think it's
more of this?
I think it's something big is going to be thrown out there.
It's very possible.
And it's going to be on camera, and it's going to look good. And I love Tucker Carlson. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big Tucker Carlson fan. I wish I could
appreciate him.
I wish I could get on his show. I would like to help Tucker Carlson and his audience and give my view of this thing.
Right.
And I've written a book about UFOs, and I've got the Great End Time Distraction that also talks about it. I think Tucker Carlson is sincere. I think he is moving to the right all the time. He's growing. I think he may be a Christian. And I think he just needs to hear the other side of the UFO thing, and I think we could.
Well, I think we got a lot of in the Christian community that need to hear it too as well. But
but a lot of them won't hear. Their ears are stuffed
no,
up.
Their ears are stuffed. Well, that ties in with another thing that I have, and that is the increase of artificial intelligence with technology, and how it's going to be able to be used in what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Because right now, with the artificial intelligence and technology that's already being used, I mean, you could put somebody else's picture in my place right now.
Doc, I'm seeing
seeing
videos and advertisements on my Facebook page, and I know these people didn't do it.
Nope.
They're being used to sell a product, but it isn't them.
It's it.
And that's scary.
And it's coming. They're moving towards transhumanism all the time. Is another thing you're going to hear a lot about.
And I had something about that as well. All I had was I saw an interview with Elon Musk, and he's right at the center of this stuff. Mm-hmm. It isn't just him, but
and he has
he realizes
inside knowledge about it.
I think he realizes if he backs off, the other guys are still going to do it. So he's staying in it.
Well, they're businessmen as well. And
he made a statement, and I don't remember who interviewed him, but he said within 3 years, AI will be godlike.
Yeah.
Now I don't know all that he meant there, but that's scary.
Well, I've been saying for a long time, for several years, that the final end time God that brings you to the Antichrist is actually going to be something to do with artificial intelligence.
By the way, 3 years puts you right around if 2030 is the middle, and I'm not saying it is. If then you back up somewhere in 2027 would be the rapture. That'd be your 3-year mark. See, it's all coming together.
It is very much so, and I hope that the calendar's off, and I hope 2030 is actually on the calendar this year, and we're out of here.
Yeah.
But folks need to understand, all of these things are going to lead to more and more obstacles and difficulties for humanity.
And I had more Christian persecution as well, and it's already happening.
Yes.
It's kind of cloaked in right-wing conservatives being attacked, but right along with that is Christian people. Yeah. And Christian people to the world includes Catholics, and they always talk about the Catholics getting attacked for praying the rosary beads and outside of the clinics, and I'm glad they're doing that. Yeah. And but see, they look at them like they look at us. Yeah. We put them all. We're all in the same little group.
It's like the verse I just read. You can stand outside of an abortion clinic and pray silently, and they'll want to put you in jail. But you can riot and burn down a pregnancy center to help young ladies, and nothing is wrong with it.
Well, you get ready for another one. Let me just throw this one out while you're getting another one here. And I hate to say this on television, but with all that's going on, all that we're hearing from politicians and news people about the danger of Donald Trump, they're saying he's the most dangerous threat to the world. He's a threat to democracy. He's a Hitler. And some of them are even saying someone needs to take him out.
Oh, yeah.
I believe there'll be an attempt on Donald Trump's life this year, this 2024. And they may succeed. I don't know.
They may.
I hope not. But God's in charge, and God either wants him to be.
It depends on. I think we got him the first time for a space of grace to slow down the globalism locomotion. But you're not going to stop that train. It's eventually going to get there.
Yeah.
But
Can you imagine
hear these things all the time?
Can you imagine what will happen in America if somebody succeeds and
well,
takes them out?
I think there's a group. I don't know if it's an entire party, but there are those entities, I believe, that are pushing to try to get America into a civil war so that they can declare all the Constitution null and void, and they can take over. They've already pretty well taken over if you haven't figured it out by now. And so I hope our folks don't take that bait.
They should have saw that in 2020,
Yes.
2021, January, when they put a fence around the Capitol, and you had just 100 people at the inauguration or whatever it was.
And now we know now we know for certain what we already suspicioned, that the trials of these individuals have all been based on doctored everything.
They have found they left out important pieces of video. They haven't turned over exculpatory evidence.
And so if you think it's a fair and just system, it's going to get worse.
What else you got? What do you got next, Doc?
Well, I believe that this year coming up, we're going to see the movement toward globalism on steroids.
Yeah,
I really do. I mean, almost every time you read some statement out of the World Economic Forum or some global elite movement, it's another more in-your-face something, and it's what we once thought was conspiracy theory is right there in front of you. It's not theory, it's reality. This is what we want to do. And I'm telling you, I'm convinced this year you're going to see the movement against nationalism.
Yep.
Back to the Trump thing, I'm not sure that the elites of the world, they're going to do everything to make sure he's not in one way or the other.
They're calling nationalists a threat to the world.
That's it.
I mean, and that's
because globalism cannot have nationalism.
Yeah.
It has to be a global socialist society.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, I'm convinced this year there's going to be a major push in that direction.
I heard a report, and I don't know if they passed it or if they're working on it. The Senate, the Congress is supposedly they're either working on it or they passed it, a law that says that the president cannot withdraw from NATO without Senate approval.
Yeah.
See, that's more globalism right there.
It's all globalism. I mean, you can talk about the Ukraine thing, and if you haven't figured out, folks, that the Ukraine thing is a way of bankrupting capitalism, and it's a way for the elite cronies that have been using it for a laundromat of their money, and they're trying to cover their tracks. I'm here to tell you, you've missed it.
Well, real quickly, I say this one every year. It's shocking to me. I wrote a chapter about the nuclear ticking clock. And it's shocking to me that nobody except America has ever dropped a nuke on anybody. It's almost like God has stayed everyone's hand somehow. But I see possibly a nuclear explosion somewhere in the world this year, maybe here in America, and tie that right in possibly with the coming cyber attack that everybody's talking about. They're all talking about it. Any time now, the banks are going to be hit by a virus, cyber attack. All the banks are going to be shut down.
My wife just this week got a notice from her bank that from her doctor's office that they had a cyber attack, didn't discover it for almost a year, and that all of her information was compromised. So now we're having to go through all this other stuff, trying to make sure everything is safe and all that. The internet is so slow in our area, you can't even hardly use it. It's worse than dial-up.
Well, Doc,
it's because somebody is
I'm worried about my $37 I've got in the bank. I mean, I don't want to lose that. You got to laugh a little bit, folks, or you'll go crazy. You got to. Someone wisely said, "Don't take life so seriously. You're not going to get out of it alive anyway."
Amen.
And you got to laugh now and then.
But you're right. Cyber attack is going to be a major thing. Well, add to that.
We realize that your money is not paper anymore. Now, we still have paper
all
money,
electronic.
but if they wipe out your electronic balance, I mean, that could devastate the country.
And but coupled with the cyber attack could actually be the connections in our world electronically because of solar activity. Or back to your nuclear thing, it wouldn't have to be a nuclear explosion down
Right,
here.
up in the
it
sky.
could be an EMP up here, and it would send America back to the Stone Ages.
Yeah.
How many people in America would know how to figure out how to have food to eat tomorrow if they didn't have it at the grocery store or at McDonald's?
All right, what else you got, Doc?
Well, I think you're going to see this year, again, number one, because this is an election cycle, and what happens in America affects the world. Mm-hmm. And I think you need to get ready this year for another pandemic of some kind. The World Health Organization they've already lined it out, they already have it in their statements, that they are prepared between 2020 and 2030 to handle 10 pandemics. And now they have the authority.
I believe the world has given them the authority to shut down states and cities.
To shut down your whole nation.
Without any congressional votes or anything.
In other words, there could be no cases of whatever XYZ it's going to be in your town or even your state, but you're going to have to be under the protocols because something happened in Liberia, Africa.
So, Doc, we haven't talked about Ezekiel 38 yet.
Well, I don't know. I believe Ezekiel 38 personally is going to happen really close to the time of the rapture and to the time of the beginning of the tribulation.
Yep, I agree.
There's too many reasons for me to think that. So if we're that close to the rapture, which we certainly could be, the stage right now is being set. You can see just this week, Russia has posted their military now on the Syrian border by Israel. You've got every one of the major players. Turkey a couple of weeks ago pulled out of a NATO exercise, threatening to pull out of NATO. And if they pull out of NATO, which I'm convinced they sometime will, they then will be in alignment with all of these names in Ezekiel 38.
Now, we talked about in the update, I think, or maybe it was you and I talking off camera, about the submarines, our submarines over there.
Right.
This is probably more about Russia than anything else.
I think it's more about Russia and China. We have these nuclear submarines. Some of them carry cruise missiles, and others of them carry nuclear missiles. And the Trident missile, I'm under the understanding that one tube, when that one tube is sent out, it has either 18 or 20 actual nuclear power heads, each one of them individually guided to their destination.
Yeah.
Inside that one Trident missile is as much explosive power as all of the bombs combined dropped in World War II.
Yeah, by everybody. England,
By
America,
everybody.
Japan.
Germany, you name it, all of them added together. That's an unbelievable amount of power.
Yeah.
And right now it appears that rather than strategically placed around the world like they normally are at all times, they're gathering close together over that Middle East
And we
area.
know why. Biblically, we know why. That's where it's all happening.
That's where it's all about.
Right there. Yep. Everybody wants Israel, and nobody's going to let somebody else get it.
Everybody wants Israel.
That includes us.
And you know, I've always been a promoter of Zionism in the sense of Zion belongs to Israel, and Israel needs to come back in her land. It's prophetic. But once again, folks, you need to understand, just because God said he's going to bring it doesn't mean that Gentile rulers are not helping bring that about because they want Jerusalem. Yeah. That's what the Crusades were all about. One side wanted it for themselves, the other side wanted it for themselves.
Yeah,
it's all about Jerusalem. It's the cup of trembling that Zechariah talked about.
Yeah. Now, the war in Israel, October 7th, began. That has really changed a lot of things.
It's changed the world.
Yeah.
Because you're watching, as we read a while ago, you're watching the heathen rage around the world for one of the most violent, wicked organizations. And people need to understand, if you call yourself a Palestinian, that you can do whatever you want to, there is no geographic place, actually, Palestine,
Yeah.
other than what the Romans designated it in 134 BC.
Yeah.
And the Jews have contact to the land all the way back to its inception time, with David taking over Jerusalem, and even before that, their presence was there.
Yeah.
They do not have, and they call it, they're occupying our, oh no, you're the ones occupying their land.
Yeah.
And we
And
did a show on that recently.
We celebrate Christmas, which is about the birth of a Jew,
Yes.
the Messiah,
Yes.
in Bethlehem in Israel.
And sadly, Bethlehem closed down, didn't even have any exercises for it this year, out of sympathy to the Palestinians. Of course, you need to understand that the Bethlehem today belongs to the Palestinians.
Yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
not the Bethlehem of your Bible anyway.
And I've been to whatever that Bethlehem is. I just soon knuckle back there.
Yeah, well, it's not the real Bethlehem.
Yeah.
Another one is the geopolitically, the things that are going to take place on the world stage. I'm telling you, they're going to be on steroids. Now, we haven't talked about it, but we got just a little bit left. Let me tell you another one I think we're going to see this year. I think we're going to see some major changes in the climate, because everybody's wanting to save the climate. Not us, but you know what that term means.
So they need some proof that
They need
they're
some
right,
proof.
because they haven't been right. And they're not
And
right.
what you're going to see is, as Jesus has already said in Luke chapter 21, that there would be the increase of volcanic or earthquakes in diverse places. You're going to see the increase of it. And right now, you're watching new earthquakes, and I mean new volcanoes being formed. Right now, there's a place through Africa where the ground is splitting apart, and it's part of the eastern part of Africa is actually splitting off from the rest of the continent. And volcanic action is going to increase. The Lord's already told us that it was going to increase, and you're watching. This year, I'm confident, because this is another tool for the evolutionary crowd to promote their global agenda for saving planet Earth.
Yeah.
Well, time's about out.
Yeah. All right. We may try to hit a few more of these in another show. We didn't get as far as we'd like, but I think hopefully we got your attention. What does all this mean? This means you better be sure you've trusted Jesus Christ as your Savior.
Yeah.
This also means you better make sure you better talk to your family. Make sure your family's ready for what's coming, the rapture. And you better talk to Christian people. Pastors, you better talk to your church. And you better let them know bad stuff's coming. You better prepare like there's a bad storm coming, because there is. Worse than anything you can imagine. It's coming. And it may be here before the rapture. And you better be ready. All right. Well, until next time, keep your eyes on them skies.